This is part one of a movie-length video series about how to prepare for the end times. This first installment video will concentrate on the question that always seems to pop into everyone's head first. Why should we prepare? Have the end times already begun? We're going to provide 12 signs that yes, they have. But before we look into those 12 signs, let's examine why preparing for the end times might be important. This is a super important question because Jesus said that Christians during the end times will be like the owner of a house, and that if he had known what hour the thief was coming, he would have been prepared. But as it was, his house was broken into. The end times will take many by surprise. Jesus also told us the end times will be like 10 virgins, all trying to keep themselves pure as they anxiously awaited the bridegroom. But then they all fell asleep, and only 5 were ready for the bridegroom when he arrived. The other 5 who weren't ready were locked out of heaven. Again, Jesus warns us the end times will surprise us, and that we can't get ready at the last minute. And in the parable of the faithful slave and the wicked slave, it's the wicked slave who says in his heart, "My master has delayed his coming." And he is shocked when his master's return surprises him. The Bible tells us the master cuts this unprepared slave to pieces and assigns him a place with the hypocrites. Jesus told us over and over and over again how important it was to be ready for his coming. Why? Now this may surprise you, but Jesus actually provided us, his followers, with several dozen commands for this specific period of time, the end times. Specific instructions on what his followers should do during that time. Unfortunately, most of us in the church have been so focused on what will happen. What are the events, and when will they take place, that we've ignored the more important concept of what to do about it. However, Jesus was focused on us being doers of his word, not just hearers of his word. In the parable of the 2 builders, he made this very plain. In Matthew 7:26 and 27, Jesus told us that everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act on them will be like a foolish man who built his house upon the sand. The rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and slammed against that house, and it fell, and great was its fall. Most of us know this famous parable, but did you notice who it is whose sand castle crashes? Who it is that built upon the sand? It is the one who hears Jesus' words but doesn't act on them. If we are hearing Jesus' words about end times and not acting on them, then this parable is about us. It will be our sand castle that crashes. And when it comes to end times, isn't that most of us? Christians argue about the what and the when of those times, as if that is why Jesus gave us the prophecies, as if he wanted us to be debaters of the word. But we ignore the more important aspect of what we should be doing about it, because what Jesus really wants is for us to be doers of his word. So in this movie-length video series, we're going to dig into all of Jesus' special commands for the end times. But first, we need to set the groundwork and answer a few questions. The first question is, are we living in the end times already? Or will another generation experience them? I'm sure when you clicked on this video, the first thought that came to your mind was, you don't claim we're living in the end times already, do you? It's been 2,000 years since Jesus ascended. Who's to say we don't have another 2,000 years? Well, in my opinion, we are living in the end times right now, and I'm not alone. According to a 2013 Barna survey, 77% of evangelicals agree with me that we are living in the end times. In fact, 41% of all Americans, the unregenerate included, agree. Just take a look at what has transpired in the last few years, many of which are prophesied end-time events. False prophets fill our airways and some of our pulpits, pouring out half-truths that tickle our ears with hope in our best life now, rather than in our blessed hope, the return of Jesus and the kingdom. Christians and even whole denominations are drifting away from the truth of the Bible and a love for Jesus. Scripture calls this apostasy. Unprecedented numbers of Christians are being persecuted. 215 million Christians experience high levels of persecution. This represents 1 in every 12 Christians worldwide, the greatest number in history. Persecution includes torture, imprisonment, martyrdom, rape, and displacement from their homes. In Western countries, which we have traditionally felt were safe, political persecution in terms of a loss of religious liberty is a growing problem. Everywhere you look, it is becoming increasingly more dangerous to follow Jesus. No one has to tell us that natural disasters are escalating at a dangerous rate. Hurricanes, fires, earthquakes are all on the rise. International debt levels have spiraled out of control. The countries in red are in the danger zone. It is only a matter of time until a financial crash of biblical proportions occurs. The formation of the nation of Israel in 1948, necessary for end-time events to happen, may be the biggest sign of all that the end times are upon us. Very few of our viewers remember that date, but the near miraculous reformation of Israel after nearly 2,000 years permits the end times to happen. Conflict over Jerusalem and the Temple Mount, stumbling blocks to the nations, have escalated the war drums over God's promised land, and there is now a concerted effort, led by the USA, to divide the land, as we are warned about in Joel 3:2. This is being proposed in the guise of a peace plan. Syria has become a battleground country for Russia, Turkey, and Iran. In fact, the entire Middle East appears at the boiling point. And within the last few years, many mentally unstable leaders have, or soon will have, nuclear weapons. And what does the Bible say? But understand this, that in the last days will come times of difficulty, for people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, heartless, unappeasable, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having the appearance of godliness but denying its power. 2 Timothy 3:1-4. Does this sound familiar? To me, it's an identical fingerprint description of our self-absorbed, media-driven culture, and the technology that has advanced to help create that culture has also advanced to make many of the events in the book of Revelation more than possible. It has made them likely. The world has become a cauldron of flashpoints, all with potential end-time application. Not one flashpoint or two, but dozens, as we've just seen, all converging at this one point in history. How much longer can the world endure and not explode into chaos? So whether Jesus comes within a few years or in 50 years, the initial impact of end-time events are already here, like the outer bands of a hurricane. a Category 10 spiritual hurricane. The eye of the storm is still out to sea, but the initial bands of the storm are already upon us. So, to answer the question you asked initially, yes, a resounding yes. No matter what theory of the end times you hold, it is likely that those times have already begun and are about to dramatically escalate. And Jesus' special instructions apply to you, your family, and your church. It is only His grace that is allowing us this time to prepare. But we must not be like the wicked slave, or the homeowner who allowed his home to be broken into, or the 5 foolish virgins. We must be ready for the end times. So we invite you to join us in learning from Jesus in this multi-part series, a movie-length DVD on how to prepare for the end times based on His special instructions. At the end of this portion of the video, click on Part 2 to answer the question, aren't we ready for the end times already?